Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Interrupting cow.
Interrupting cow.
No.
I have heard that one. I have heard that one, but that's exactly it. Impulsivity, oversharing, like just impulsively sharing your whole life story.
Welcome to the I Didn't Know What the Fuck I Was Doing podcast.
We're your hosts, Teresa
and David.
This is the podcast with two ADHD entrepreneurs
who've made a lot of mistakes.
Each week, we discuss ways to navigate business, relationships, and health.
We also interview excellent guests who share their own personal IDKWTF stories.
Listen today so you can hear some relatable content
as we normalize uncertainty and obstacles.
Because it's important to admit that no one really knows
what the fuck they're doing.
Welcome back.
Welcome back.
All right. So David had just asked the question of, is it rejection sensitive dysphoria? Is it actually rejection or is it not? Is it just the way people communicate?
And so I've had two big examples, one for me, one for one of my clients. So she was launching this big product and someone said that it wasn't right for their store. And she took it so hard. She was like, you know, I thought they supported me. I thought they liked me. I thought we were friends. I thought we were doing this. I can't believe he wouldn't want this at their place. And I'm going to block him and do this and never getting anything. And I was like, whoa. But because this product of hers is her passion, it's her baby. It's this thing that she loves. She loves it so much. And in this particular moment, because this is someone she cared about, she didn't understand why he wouldn't support her in this.
Right.
And it was simply a very basic business decision. And if you look at it objectively, it wasn't right for that store.
But she took it personally because why wouldn't he want this product in this store?
She was so hurt. She felt like she was rejecting her and like sabotaging their relationship. And it was like a very polite and subtle no. And when I talked to her, I was like, okay, we sat down, I got her out of like her heightened state. We played some video games first. And then we were talking and I was like, okay, like, I know it feels like rejection, but it's really not. Like, I'm sure he really cares about you still. And then it was getting back to that state of really looking at it logically, which is virtually impossible to do when you're feeling that emotion. Right.
Yeah.
And that's where I've often been, whether it's like I'm reaching out to someone for a date and it's, hey, you want to go do this? And they're like, not today. I'm like, oh, she hates you. Clearly.
Right. I'm fully rejected if this person. Yeah. I had a friend recently who I hadn't seen for a while. And I said something. I hadn't even talked to her for probably like a month and a half. And we were really talking more regularly. Even if we didn't see each other, we just were connecting. And it was funny because she reached out to me and goes, hey, let's get together next week. And it was like, there was a period where I was like, did I do something or does she not like me? And I was like, no, she's just busy. No, she's just busy. But it's like, I had to talk myself out of it. But that perceived rejection hurts.
Hurts a lot, right?
It burns, man.
Yeah. So many people, because whether they're like getting into network marketing or getting into something new, because just that feeling of, hey, I put my passion into this thing and someone doesn't like it, man, that hurts.
Well, and I think it's something that anyone, neurotypical, neurodivergent, be thoughtful. And if you are thoughtful, great. Like that person has to manage their own stuff, but also sometimes consider, because I think sometimes people are harsh and they don't think they're harsh, but it's like, yeah, if you kind of didn't say that nicely, like you don't know what's happening on the other end. Even if you're like, oh, I don't want to hear about one more network marketing company. You don't have to say it like that to the person, because you could just be like, you know, I'm just really not interested at this time. I still love you. I want to support you. And that's just not the way I would like to do it at this time.
Yeah.
Like then at least that person, even if they still feel hurt, which they might, at least you've reassured them, you're still my human. I still think you're cool. I just don't want to talk about that thing.
Yeah. I think that's a huge way to close out that topic is don't just be aware of yours, but be aware of how your actions can affect someone else.
Totally.
Yeah. Right. So what else? What else are some things our neurodivergents do that bug the heck out of neurotypicals?
Stimming.
Sounds like drugs.
Other people, it is like drugs for a brain.
Yeah.
Fidgeting. A lot of people would call this fidgeting.
Mhm.
That's what it's been called historically, is just straight up fidgeting, is like people who skin pick, who bite their lips, who pick at their face, who pull on their hair, who like a lot of times stimming is repetitive or unusual moments that don't really serve a purpose. So maybe it's like shaking your hands or bouncing your foot over and over and over, or tapping your foot, like rocking back and forth, rocking side to side. There's lots of things. And a lot of times stimming can be very visually distracting to anybody, neurodivergent or neurotypical. And that's where like it gets trained out of a lot of us. That's where like that behavioral, it's like unacceptable in a classroom for a kid to be standing up and rocking back and forth. The teacher doesn't want that because it's distracting. But if that kid is actually listening because they're standing and rocking back and forth, fidget spinners, they were like a huge, I mean, I don't know anybody that doesn't know what a fidget spinner is, because it was this huge phenomena. It was literally a mom who made it for her autistic kiddo.
Yeah.
And then it became a toy. So then they got banned everywhere, but it's like, there's actually a place for different types of fidgets.
And I think fidget spinners are actually a perfect case study on how like expansive stimming is and how widespread people use stimming to cope. Because what it is, it's a soothing of tension and stress. So we're doing a physical action to release pent up stress, whether it's good stress, whether we're happy, right? Or whether we're sad.
I'm laughing. Like, for anybody who's watching this, they could see I'm kind of over here laughing. It's not because of what you're saying, David, because literally I just noticed I have flip flops on, and I just noticed I'm sort of like rubbing my feet together in a certain way. Because it's been a long day. We've gotten a ton of stuff done, but I'm like, I'm kind of like just tired of sitting here right now. And so it's so soothing to me. But that is a form of stimming. It's also stress relief. Like, stimming is a huge like way to get rid of stress.
What I normally do is I would rock back and forth. This is my normal, natural thing I would do. That looks terrible on camera. People have commented on it, and it's like, it's distracting. Plus the chair squeaks. So what I do is I actually squeeze my hand while we're talking. So I'm down here. You might be able to see it on the other camera, but I squeeze my like little hand pressure points.
Mm-hmm.
And so what a lot of us have had to do is learn how to do some sort of self-soothing stimming that doesn't agitate everyone around us.
So I have these they're little metal looking, they're almost like a little ring, but they're stimulants. I've got the little like popper thing in my purse. I have two of these. One, this is mine. My daughter has one, because you give her one of these, she does so much better in the world when she can keep her fingers doing something at all times.
Exactly.
More successful in her life.
And I think a lot of people are, which is why we have pen clickers at events. They click pens, or they twirl them, or they tap on their thing, or they move. But a lot of people, they don't have the word to describe the activity that's happening. And if they said, okay, this is called stimming, how can I do this in a more productive way, or less distracting way?
Or less distracting way for other people. I mean, there's all sorts of like things you can buy now. I mean, they even have things that they're like, oh, you can put like a little piece of, it's basically adhesive on one side and then Velcro or some sort of texture that are just these little like 2-inch by 1/2-inch strips that you can put on your phone, on your laptop, on your desk, somewhere, because nobody will even notice you just sitting there touching this, but it's a different texture, and it's a way to like fidget and or get that stim out without being distracting to other people.
Exactly. And I think that fidget spinners really brought to light the widespread issue. I think it suddenly became abused because kids then were like coveting them.
Well, and it became a toy, because honestly, for any kid, a fidget spinner, if you're not neurodivergent, it is going to be distracting, because you're going to be thinking about playing with the little toy and spinning your little toy. And then you're not listening to the teacher, where a kid who needs it as an outlet to help them focus actually needs to be using it.
Absolutely.
So there's a huge difference, and it's definitely like an important thing to just note that. This is a podcast for anyone looking to improve their personal, professional, or family life.
We craft these episodes so you can learn from or relate to our experiences and opinions.
And we'd love to hear more about you. So if you're interested in connecting with us further,
as well as other like-minded individuals,
we recommend checking out our creatively named Facebook group, Colorado Entrepreneurs.
You don't have to be from Colorado or be an entrepreneur to join, but it doesn't hurt.
Just go to facebook.com/groups/Colorado Biz, that's BIZ, and send us a join request.
Or check the link in the description and show notes below.
Thanks for listening. And now back to the show. Just to touch really quickly, like impulsivity, I've talked a lot about interrupting and multiple things. It's my thing. It's not my jam. I don't really want to do it, but I do it.
Have you heard this one? Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Interrupting cow.
Interrupting cow.
Oh.
I have heard that one. I have heard that one, but that's exactly it. Impulsivity, oversharing, like just impulsively sharing your whole life story when that's not with a random person or someone that maybe you know is an acquaintance and you're like, ooh, maybe that was an overshare. So, I mean, and you can think of that. Speeding.
Oh, yeah.
Adrenaline surfing. That's also part of dopamine seeking, but it's impulsive shopping, like just buying stuff, impulsively eating. Like there's a lot of impulsivity that comes with ADHD. So that's like a big thing too.
Yeah. Yeah. Are you pretty impulsive? You're like outside of interrupting, or do you like ridiculously buy things?
I think there have been times I can be impulsive, but like I'm not a crazy impulsive shopper. I love buying new stuff, but I think a lot of my anxiety has kept me from doing that, like trying to make sure I have enough money. There's some scarcity mindset too that is not really go along with this topic, but there's definitely that exists in my life. No, but like speeding. Oh yeah.
Okay.
It's bad. It's bad. I'm better now that I'm older. Like basically I speed within the limit that I won't get in trouble. So there's like some level of responsibility, but if I'm just out on the highway, I gotta watch myself.
I think impulsiveness is an interesting one because I'm pretty similar. Like I have a shockingly low risk tolerance, but I do a lot of really risky things. But it's
I was just really like what? Like what? Just list a couple things.
Well, like speeding, like investing in things like Bitcoin, or I hate gambling though. Gambling, I think, is just the stupidest thing.
I love gambling, but I don't want to waste all my money. But I freaking love, talk about dopamine, man. Give me a roulette table. I got to play on a roulette table like back in the day. I love roulette. I spent the whole flipping night playing roulette.
That's interesting. That's so interesting to me.
But I don't want to waste my money because I'm fully aware it is just straight up chance.
That's so interesting. Yeah. No, it doesn't do it for me. My first time I turned 21, went to Vegas. I played $5 blackjack. I played 4 hands in a row, lost $20 right off the bat. And I was like, I'm never gambling again.
See, I love blackjack, but I like games. I like all games. So me, it's a card game. It's also different when you're sitting there with all your money, but actually I totally would sit at a blackjack table too.
But so like, I'll spend money on my own games. Like I actually really enjoy if I can spend $10 to get one of my buildings completed faster, I'll do that.
Which is definitely impulsive. And a lot of people are like, no, if I have to spend money on this, I'm not doing it.
Right. And I was like that for a long time, but I see it as like, I'm spending a lot of time on this game. It's clearly giving me value. I'm happy to pay them because they're giving me pleasure, right? They're giving me something good. Yeah.
Or I've spent money on my games too. Run Kingdom I play Pokemon Go. Me and Dan have played Pokemon Go for years. Over the last 4 years of it, we've definitely spent money on Pokemon Go.
I probably would have. I didn't have a smartphone when that came out though. Interesting. All right. Well, so we've talked about all of these, I don't want to use the word symptoms, but conditions of ADHD. So these ways that it expresses itself. So one thing I did want to touch on, and we can go through it kind of quick, is the whole point of medication, which I thought it was so dumb because why would you give a kid an amphetamine, right?
A stimulant, right.
Logically, it doesn't make sense. So Ritalin is like one half of it, and Adderall is actually 2 types of amphetamines, and they're near amphetamines mixed together to just pump amphetamine into a child's brain And I was like, that is so corrupt. There's no reason for it. But what it does is it actually brings the dopamine level back to a manageable area so that we're not seeking dopamine through things like being impulsive and just doom scrolling and doing things that are destructive. We can actually
literally
the normal level
allows us to get stuff done.
So I think we can just end on the fact that there's a lot of different medications that do a lot of different things, and everyone responds in a different way. And because I know there's a lot of like dual issues where things like Wellbutrin can help with depression and ADHD, right?
Yeah.
So Adderall isn't the only answer. A lot of supplements out there as well that can help, and a lot of things called nootropics that can help, but there's not necessarily a right answer. But I'm now at this place where I've tried a lot of these different ones where I don't think that prescriptions are a wrong answer. And in fact, they can just make a lot of things way easier. They make a lot of these things easier to deal with.
Well, and I think also to just address super quickly, because people have talked about how methamphetamine as a drug and Adderall, because if you're a chemist, they're they're almost exactly the same buildup. But you could look at carbon dioxide and carbon monoxide. They're literally almost exactly the same. And you get two very different things that affect your body differently. Right. So it's like, and there is something to the way someone with an ADHD brain is going to react to methamphetamine, to cocaine, to even like microdosing mushrooms. So it's like, yes, you've got two very different things because you've got something that's super, need a chemist, got to create this stuff. And then you got something like mushrooms where it's like, I've done it. I've microdosed once and I can't wait till the next time I do. It is the calmest, clearest. And it literally, I was calm and clear for 3 or 4 days after, even though it's not in my system anymore. I can drive now. But it was like the most chill I've ever felt in my entire life that I can remember, which is insane.
Yeah, it's amazing what these can do. And I'm a huge fan of microdosing. I actually prefer LSD. They're very different. And we'll talk about it.
I've never done LSD. Yeah, we can definitely, I think we can talk about this. We can talk about drugs and all sorts of fun
about drugs
stuff a different day. But it is absolutely relevant to bring it up in this episode just because there's so many of these things, just like David was saying. I mean, you can be treated for anxiety and that can help your ADHD too. And sometimes though, what people find is they're treated for depression or anxiety, and it's actually not the right drug because they should be getting an ADHD drug that would actually then alleviate the symptoms. And everybody's different. So sometimes you try something for one piece. It's just not the right combination or the right thing.
Exactly. We covered a lot of ground in these episodes. I think it's great. So if you have questions or kind of want to share your experience with your neurodivergence, how it's different, I would love to get someone who's autistic in to come chat with us one of these days. Cause I would just love to hear, because there's a lot of overlap between autism and ADHD. And I would just love to hear some of their experience.
Yeah. If you are that person you want to share and you want to be on our podcast, let us know. Like, we want to be talking about all the stuff that make other people uncomfortable that they don't know how to talk about. Like, I was uncomfortable saying that I've microdosed. Like, I was like, what if people hear? Like, I mean, it's legal where I live. So
let's go get some drugs.
That's fun times. Okay, guys. Like, yes, part 1, part 2. We just wanted to give you as much information as possible. There's no like specific tips, except maybe just arm yourself. Know what you can. If you're neurotypical, I hope that this helped give you an insight. And maybe you're like, oh, wow, I know this person and this explains X, Y, or Z about something that maybe you just didn't understand. So if you got one of those ahas, please tell us, share it in the comments, DM us, let us know. Like, we just want to make a difference for you. So thanks for listening.
Thanks for checking out another episode.
Morning, evening, whatever time it is. We love you.
Take care, guys.
Bye.
Bye. We love you. Heart. Thank you for listening. This has been the conclusion of our 2-part series.
And hey, congrats for making it here.
If you didn't happen to catch part 1, just go back to the previous episode to get the full story.
It was a really good one.
If you enjoyed today's conversation, please consider liking, subscribing, and or reviewing us on wherever you listen to your podcasts.
Also, if there's someone you know who clearly doesn't know what the fuck they're doing and would benefit from this topic, please hit that share button and send them this episode.
Let's normalize the feeling of uncertainty.
Asking for help and admitting that we don't know
what the fuck we're doing either.